on. It's activated and recording now. So
For maximum?
that means it's recording. No, not
Just
maximum. I just kept
just
it that
say
high.
maximum.
There's only 71 gigs left on my computer right now, so
Your C drive is big. Your C drive is low
did
on
you just
or
call my
space.
computer a
Yes.
PC with the C
Yeah.
drive?
Yes.
That's horrendous.
That was the point.
Horrendous.
Speaking of, I'm assuming you're doing this on your Mac Pro, or are you doing or MacBook Pro, or are you doing on this on your Mini?
It's on the mini right now.
Ooh, the Mini. Who does that anymore? Who even has minis? Who uses minis?
People who are smart or were smart at one time when they were relevant and they're not relevant anymore.
I guess. I mean, I know there are other people that use it really for like kids, basically. They're browsing and whatever kids do nowadays on uh, budget PCs, if you want to call them budget Macs. I don't know, because they don't have anything right now besides that in the what MacBook Air. I don't think there's anything else really on Macs.
Well, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing though. We're in a world where software, no wait, how do I say this? Hardware has way surpassed software. So
Hmm.
you don't really need a lot of computing power contrary to geek belief where you
Mm,
need to have the best of the best and the best processor and the best RAM and the most RAM you can get. You don't need any of that.
but
You need a
but
browser.
Josh, I want to play video games on my Mac. How do we do that?
Well, you don't. You don't play video games on a Mac. That's not allowed.
uh, that's unfortunate. But what I was really getting at is I was always considering kind of getting a Mac Mini, even though they're very, I guess, outdated. There hasn't been an update for them in a while. Just to kind of have as a media center downstairs and the TV to sort of act as a Plex server sort of deal. So be it. Um, I'm not really sure if I'm going to buy into that.
Yeah, the Mac Mini has always been a favorite of mine. I have always liked the idea of buying a Mac, but pretty cheap, and choosing the peripherals. I like that a
Mm,
lot. Without having to do the gigantic price tag of the MacBook, or I'm sorry, the Mac Pro rather.
right.
Um, so yeah,
Cool beans. I I was looking at, and I'm assuming you saw that there's the Mac or Apple impromptu education event. That's what next Tuesday. That what 27th, whatever
yeah,
day that is.
yeah, that's right.
I don't know if that's really going to give us anything. I think it's really just a hey, let's move venues to show off some new features that are going to be relatively good for education, I guess. Maybe new iPad, who knows? iPad refresh, but I don't think it's really a big event for the mainstream user. I mean, what do you think?
I don't think so either. I think it's going to be pretty blasé. I mean,
Hmm.
at best, maybe we'll see a. Well, I don't really don't think we're going to see anything really that's going to be a refresh of any kind or any kind of Mac refresh or anything.
Yeah. Have you seen the venue? Like where they're gonna have it?
No, where is it?
Okay, it's at some school in Chicago, and it looks like a college. It's a beautiful campus. I gotta find it, but it almost makes me laugh because you're bringing this huge presence to Chicago, and you're focusing on education. You'd think they'd try to go to not a public school, but to try and bring it to a broader base. But they're just going straight to this what looks like a very upscale high school that not many kids. Uh, I guess the generic population wouldn't be sending their kid to this fancy. I'm probably saying the wrong words for this school, but it looks like a college campus.
Well, at 2.99 a pop for each iPad. I mean, yeah. Uh, can't imagine that being brought into a public school very quickly or easily or getting approved very quickly or easily. So,
No,
uh,
no, not at all. It's
but yeah,
pretty
it looks
sad.
like some kind of iPad-based event,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It doesn't. They usually don't announce products and stuff like that. They usually
Yeah.
talk about either software or some kind of new management tool or something like that. So,
It's called, oh, it's Lane Tech. It's Lane Tech Prep High School.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not a charter school down in the middle of the heart of Chicago.
No. Wow. It's a magnet school. I love Google, searching Google and seeing that it says it's a magnet school. Yes. Very, very nice. Well, that's fine, I guess. I'm not really looking to see if anything comes out of it, but um, I just remember back when our school just got iMacs, everybody freaked out. I mean, we had them in, or we had like a Mac lab. It had maybe 12 or 20 PC or Macs, iMacs. I don't know what year that would have been. That would have been 2008. So it was after, was it the G4 or whatever, the G5? Sorry, I can't remember the name of that.
I just want to be
Uh,
clear. You were in high school in 2008.
yes. Yes, I was.
That was the year before my first son was born. So there's that.
God, that that does put perspective to
Yeah.
this. And then I graduated in 2010, so that makes it even worse.
Yeah, we don't need to. We can change the subject now.
Anyways, yes,
Yeah.
let's move this on. But anyways, so we had talked earlier too about and we're gonna switch topics at this point because I really want to talk about the Game Informer top 300 list. Have you
Oh,
seen that at
I
all
have
yet?
not. No, no.
Okay, I have to get this to you next time, or I'll bring it tomorrow. But and I was wrong. Number one, the number one game is not Witcher
Oh,
3.
thank God. You just
Yes.
you just gave me a ray of hope. Wait, wait,
It,
before I say that. What is the number one game, Justin?
it is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So
That's the number one game?
yeah, that's what Game Informer is saying. Which
Okay, that is
that's
one of my favorite Zelda games, but it beat Ocarina of Time.
yeah, I don't even know where Ocarina of Time is. And sorry if there's background noise of me flipping through viciously to find where the hell that is. I don't know where it is, but it's in here. I remember reading it because there's so many things. I mean, like Chrono Trigger, I've never even played,
Oh my
which
gosh, that is a fantastic game.
which
Fantastic.
I feel like I probably made people turn in their grave because I've never played that game. I mean, Galaga is 22, and for those who think Galaga's said differently, was it you that was saying Galaga said some Galaga or
No, that was not me, sir. That no,
uh,
sir.
okay,
It's
good.
Galaga, sir.
Yes, good. Ah, no, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is 39 out of 300.
What?
Yeah.
Link to the Past got one, and they. I can't read this list. I can't look at this list. This list is just wrong.
Yeah, I was really surprised because I would have thought Ocarina of Time would have been at least top five. But it's okay. World of Warcraft is top five, so that's surprising.
Well, which of the top five is World of Warcraft? You know what? Can you just read the top five? That would be great.
Yeah, it's top five. Starting with number. Let's go from the five down because it's more suspenseful.
Yes,
Five
sure.
is World of Warcraft, and it just says World of Warcraft 2004. So we're talking possibly vanilla, but I think they're trying to pull in overall World of Warcraft. So,
I
but
mean, it was a powerhouse then. That was like peak
oh
World of
yeah,
Warcraft. Well, man, I don't know. We would have to look it up, but I think that was vanilla peak,
yes,
and that was a good time.
yes, and they have a screenshot where it looks like vanilla. Wow, and man, has it changed? Just a slight bit.
Yeah, you start comparing and you realize all the big changes that they have made over the years. Even just not just visually. I mean, that whole game has changed 100%.
Oh yes, yeah, 100% in graphics and design and the way that the character development is changed. It's night and day, and I almost am afraid if we were to go back and play what the next expansion pack that comes out, uh, or maybe even 2 years if it's still stuck on World of Warcraft. I bet you they would have already changed talents again for the umpteenth time. But
Yeah, I don't know. It's
back to
hard to say.
back to the top five. We're at four is Grand Theft Auto 5, which actually I agree with because that is a very good game and it's continuing to be. Wow, hold up. It was released in 2013.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Wow, and it just stopped being $50, I think, just within the last year or so. That's pretty insane.
Well, and that's why I was considering picking it up because it's a pretty old game, so the discounts on it these days are pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
And well, decent as in 30% or 20%, so decent.
Yeah.
But with that said, I've heard nothing but amazing things about that game, and people are going to get angry at me for not actually ever playing it, but I had just started playing Grand Theft Auto games this year, which
Wow.
also probably people will get angry about. Either way, uh, that one is supposed to be one of the best, if not the best, Grand Theft Auto open world games. So I
Yeah,
don't know. I've heard nothing but good things.
that's actually surprising. I didn't know that because God, I would say probably even before high school when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. That was the first one I played, and I was obsessed with that game just because that in itself had so many things you could do. You can go across and do side missions. You don't have to do the main missions. You can just really just drive around and do whatever you wanted to. And then you come to this so many years later, and they're doing free expansion packs essentially, online games or online scenarios, and it's insane. I mean, if you ever get a chance to play it and then buy into the online side of it, meaning not paying for it, but getting into it, investing the time into playing online and saving the money and doing the quests, we'll call them, or the missions to get more money. It's insane. You can do a crap load. So
That's what I've heard, and I, I won't get into why I didn't play any of the Grand Theft Auto games until recently. We
hmm
can maybe that's another podcast if we get there. But um, having played the older ones now and how good they are, I can only imagine that GTA 5 is just phenomenal.
yeah, it is
So,
pretty good. Cool. Number three is really a pretty plain yet a staple. Number three is Tetris, like the
oh
original
man.
Tetris, which
No, that should be there for sure. Tetris
mm,
was, I mean, come on. Game Boy running around with Tetris. So good. So good. That was before your time and before you were born, though, so, you know. Um, Tetris, though, so good. I mean, that game has lasted forever, and
yeah.
it's on every platform ever made, so just great.
To think about it too, if you look at, I'm pretty sure there's an app of varieties now, a game of Tetris on some form of, I don't know, adding new features to Tetris, but really the core of the game has been the same. And what's kind of funny is that it was released in 1984 and it's still made top three for this list, and continues to be modified, updated, created into some form, mobile. So that's pretty insane. Props to that.
Yeah, well, and that formula just is sticky. It is just a sticky formula. You start playing it, you just keep playing.
Yeah,
So, and it's almost to a person that I've talked to about that game, and they feel that way about it. So, it's a good game.
yeah. But the next one, number two, is Super Mario Bros. 3, which don't kill me. I've never played.
Oh my God, Justin. You're right. It was, let's see, The Wheel, Fire, and then Super Mario Brothers 3, and then whatever you played after that. Um, no, we were actually just playing it tonight. And coincidentally, my son found it on the eShop and asked if he could buy it yesterday. And my wife loves that game as much as I do, probably. And it is phenomenal. It really, I would say that's when Mario games came into their own. A lot of really important big leaps happened in that game that have stuck with Mario since.
hmm
I mean, that was the uh, foxtail tanuki suit. You know, that was the first time that appeared, and that was a huge thing. And what else? The big worlds. I mean, there were 8 worlds to go through. I mean, just like the first Mario, but in a different way. There was like a map, and you could go through the different. There was like a mid castle you'd go through, and things moved on the map, and it was just a whole different experience. Especially after Mario 2, where I mean, what the hell were they thinking there? I know it was an original game that they stole to make a Mario game, but I hated that game with a passion. So yeah, Mario 3 was great.
Yeah, I think I played, and this is sad, but I think I remember playing maybe the original Super Mario. Maybe? I don't remember. It's going to be bad because I remember playing it and being like, wow, this is fun, and then, putting it down and walking away.
This
And
is
then,
pretty much how we alienate our audience. Is you talk about your first games, I'll talk about my first games. Like I'm gonna say things like, my first video game was Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo Entertainment System,
yeah, and
which immediately alienates everybody before 1980. Because I mean, you had the Atari, you had the Commodore, you had a whole slew of games that were happening way before that, and so yeah.
yeah, no, and that's fine. I mean, people can leave if they want to, but at this point, I think it makes it a little bit more interesting because you have different genres and different what do we want to call it? Generations of people getting introduced into video games and tech, whatever you want to say, after that. But really, it's just coming into video games at a different point. I would love to talk to my siblings and know that my siblings, when they went and asked me, "Do you know what Pokemon is?" I went, "Holy crap! Are you serious?"
Yeah,
That's
that's
kind
an
of
eye
your
opener right
response.
there. Yeah.
That's your response to Super Mario Bros. Where I can't believe I was asked that.
Yeah, well, and to take it in a kind of a tangent here, I have friends who did not grow up with consoles at all at the same time that I was playing Super Mario Brothers and, the original Legend of Zelda and
Whoa.
Bomberman and all that stuff. They they had no console. They did not have the Atari. They didn't have the NES. They had, their parents had work computers at home or whatever. And I mean, it's a pretty big group of friends that I'm talking about, and they all almost universally had this experience where none of them had consoles. They all played all these old, like Zork, old computer games,
Hmm.
and adventure games on the computer, and choose your own adventures, and that was a big thing for them. And I'm only seeing those games now at the ripe age of 34,
Ugh.
and they don't really hold up. But these were important games to them. Where I mean, I was collecting mushrooms and jumping over turtles. They were, busting through castle gates and slaying dragons. So, um, it's interesting that at the same time you had kind of two big renaissances in terms of video games going on, and I feel like both were pretty separated camps in a lot of ways because who had the amount of money to afford a $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 computer and or the Nintendo Entertainment System, which I think at the time was like $500 or
Oh
something. I don't
my.
even know. So
That's ridiculous. And then I remember paying $400, $300 for an Xbox 360 and going, "Wow, this is ridiculous." Why I had immediate buyer's remorse buying it, but then played it for hours and hours and hours. But just going back to think, yeah, the original Nintendo was $500, or buying a personal computer was 4 grand. But
okay, well you
anyways,
can edit all this out because the original Nintendo sold without a game for $89.
okay, good, good, good.
And with a
Watch it.
game for 149. So, a quick Google search would have eliminated all that and made that unnecessary.
Anyways, so the last one, well, like we had said, was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which again I have never played because, and I have a good reason behind this, is I don't think I really ever had access to an SNES.
Was that okay? So I'm not trying to be a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
Was that when you were playing video games, or was that before you had access to video games, or were too young?
So that is 92.
Uh-huh.
I was born in
Oh,
92, so I
oh my
physically
God. Oh
couldn't
God. I'm
play.
really, really sorry I asked.
But 4 years after that, I think is really when I started playing, and that was because I was playing on a Super Nintendo.
Okay,
So,
so let me paint you a picture.
hmm
In 1992, Justin's born, and then I had been playing video games for quite some time. Not,
hmm
I mean, I played my first game in 19. Oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna do this math. Forget it. But I was 5 when I played Super Mario Brothers,
nice.
and then I don't even know what age I was. I'll figure it out some other time. But I was pretty much, I would say like 10 or 12, and uh, my dad and I played Link to the Past together. That's why that game is pretty special to me. Like it has a
Mm,
lot of nostalgia surrounding it, where I think a lot of gamers today, that's Ocarina of Time for them.
yes.
So for me, it was definitely Link to the Past. And again, I feel like that's when Zelda really had a big change. The original Zelda was pretty ambitious and pretty awesome, and then they took a big leap with Link's Adventure, which was Zelda 2,
Mm,
and that one did not do well. Or at
no.
least I don't think it did well. Amongst my friends, it did not at school. And I hated it at the time, which I realize now it was a masterpiece. But at the time, I hated it. And then Link to the Past came out, and it was like a real adventure game. And it was
hmm
like, wow, you can go over here and find stuff there, and you can go over there and talk to this person. And it was cool. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, I remember picking up and playing on a Super Nintendo, and I remember playing, oh my God, the original Zelda, and I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that's on there, correct?
The Nintendo, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So I remember playing that, and that was a lot of fun. And just later on, as I got older, we still were playing that on emulators, or buying those $50 game pack things that you would plug into your TV and play old arcade games. And
As
sometimes
seen
they
on
was,
TV.
yeah, exactly, those ports. So that was a lot of fun. But no, for me for me the really big staple was getting in and playing on, I think, really PS2, because there was like Gran Turismo, there's all the racing games. I played PlayStation. I owned a PlayStation. It was one of the first consoles I got, and I can't remember if my parents bought it, or I don't know how I came about it. I really don't remember, but getting that and playing like Legends of Dragoon and, oh God, Ace Combat. I didn't really find my niche until I got into PlayStation 2, and that's when I started playing things like Kingdom Hearts. And then I realized, crap, I like stuff like this, and it kind of spiraled from there. And that's exactly what we did for Kingdom Hearts. My whole family played that game. We sat around and played that like every other night, or we would sit down like on a Friday night and play that, reading off the game book, the guide that you would go out and buy, that, those thick 500-page game guides on how to get every single bit of the game finished. And that was a lot of fun. And I I still kind of reminisce to that by still having I still have my Kingdom Hearts 2 disc somewhere around here, and I still have my PlayStation 2, so I might actually end up snagging that from my parents' house.
Gosh, I mean, what a different time. The Prima strategy guides. My
Yes.
goodness. I mean, how well do they do today? I highly doubt they sell any of those today.
Mm.
Um, Kingdom Hearts is very interesting to me because somehow I missed slash avoided that game. Um,
It's
but
a shame.
the PS2 and the PlayStation, man, those were the golden ages for console games. I mean, that was when there was a lot of good competition and a lot of games and a lot of just really good stuff coming out of some really good, still around today gaming studios that
Mm-hmm.
were making quality products. I mean, you had that huge run of Final Fantasy games, and that's where they really took off. And the N64 was around that time, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I had all that, of course, you know me. So, um, but I mean, I played Metal Gear, MGS2 on the PlayStation 2. I remember selling my GameCube specifically because MGS2 had come out.
Wow.
Be like, I don't just take it all the things. I need this game. They're like, you're only gonna get one controller
I
with
get
it.
it.
I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. This is gonna own my life for the next X amount of, weeks. So,
Yeah. No, that's funny because I didn't even think about N64 and I played a lot on there. I played really it was oh man, the Donkey Kong Adventure, I think it was what it was, Donkey Kong Adventure. I gotta check this out because I keep forgetting the name of it. But I remember playing that all the time, and of course the typical like 007. I mean,
oh yeah.
that's all that's all generic. Everybody knows that.
I think it was
But
actually just Donkey Kong 64 was the name of that game, I believe.
was it?
Mhm. Donkey
Oh
Kong
yes, it was. Holy cow!
64.
Yes, that game was addicting. That was like my first adventure game. That's what it was. That was this is what sparked loving the fact that you could sit and go and collect all the collectibles, get beat all the bosses. Uh, I remember playing the you would get in the game and play like miniature versions of or emulations of the old Donkey Kong to win certain things, and that was the coolest thing ever.
See, and again, I don't know. It's not a big gap, but there is a generation gap there where my Donkey Kong was definitely on Super Nintendo. Donkey Kong Country, that was the game.
Yeah,
We bought it on the eShop and we still play it today. My wife's like, "Do you want to play? Do you want to play Donkey Kong?" I'm like, "Yeah, of
yeah.
course." So, yeah,
There,
that's interesting.
there was a Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that was the first Donkey Kong adventure game, I would say. I believe that's the right way to say it. I mean, because really the first Donkey Kong game was the one with Mario, where you had to climb the ladders and avoid the barrels and get that random lady that hasn't been in any other Mario or Donkey
Yeah.
Kong game since.
They
I think
killed
her
it
name was
off.
Paulina. I think her name was Paulina, honestly.
That's pretty sad, but definitely
That
makes
I know
sense
the
why.
name or that's her name.
Both. But the fact
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure that they definitely killed that off really quickly.
Well, you save her, and then that's it. She's just saved now forever. So,
God, I was looking at the oh, and of course, Ocarina of Time is from or N64 Ocarina of Time. And I remember playing that all the time. That was my real start, I guess, or start of my love for Zelda was from there, and it kind of died off because I didn't get a GameCube until later on into the game, and that was my problem. I kept buying the consoles later on just because I ain't got nobody has time to buy. When I was that kid time and that age, I didn't have time to go buy that. I was barely getting an allowance, so it was
yeah.
hard to get those things. But no, I loved N64. I'm looking at the graphics of some of these games and realizing, holy crap, I thought this thing was amazing at the time, and how our minds change.
Well, so it's the N64. I mean, I think it would be fun to study a lot of that time and era, and especially the N64, because I think if you go read a lot of articles today about it, they really call that almost a failure on Nintendo's part, or in some ways just not a good console, or just they made a big mistake. And yet somehow that whole era, I would say, or not era, but set of years or, decade or so, was really colored for me by that system. I mean, we used to have what we called bondathons. We played so much 007, and I played so much Perfect Dark, and I played so much Ocarina of Time. I've been through that game hundreds of times. I'm playing it again on 3DS for the first time, and
Yeah.
that's just such a masterpiece game. And then you have Star Fox, and I mean, it's just even Blast Corps was fantastic. And it's funny because I think a lot of the critics today just consider it such a failure compared to and they're not wrong about the smash success of the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. Those
Right.
those consoles were massive, and they had the publisher support. But Nintendo had really just swept away a lot of the old regime and way of thinking of games with, Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time. Just they had changed the way you did 3D adventuring forever, and it's just it's interesting to think about those being considered, at least for me, somewhat of a failure because that was such a huge part of my console days.
It's funny too. As you were talking, I was looking at one when Donkey Kong 64 was released, which was 1999, and I guess I maybe shunned this or removed this from my brain, but there was those coins that you had to collect in Donkey Kong 64, and they're like the multicolored coins, and they're it was supposedly only thought to be 976, but some guy just as recently as of January or yeah, January of last year, or even no, sorry, December of this year or the previous year, sorry, found another 977th coin. The fact that somebody's actually playing this game and going around doing that is insane.
Well, I mean, look at the speedrunners you see on Twitch every day, running super old games over and over and over again, and it's crazy. I mean, I
Damn.
don't have that attention span for sure.
Well, I mean, you're not sitting around playing video games getting paid to do it, are you?
No,
Yeah,
no.
exactly. I'm sure at one
That
point that runs out, you run out of ideas.
Yeah, that I missed that boat unfortunately. So, um,
Didn't we
but yeah,
both?
it's an interesting thing to think about and fun to think about, and where all that went and who chose what at what time. And I mean, we keep seeing Nintendo do different things and trying different things, which is my favorite part of that company. They really
Yes.
push the envelope and really innovate in a lot of ways. But I mean, the Wii U is arguably a failure, and everybody says it's being swept away because it's a failure. And
Mm.
yeah, I really still play my Wii U and enjoy it. So it's very interesting to think about all that stuff.
Well, the Wii U, wouldn't you think it's the same or similar concept as the Switch? I mean,
In a lot of ways, yeah, but what really what's when you think about the Wii U, what is really the gimmick? And I think Nintendo's answer is vague at best. I mean, sure, you can take the gamepad and go somewhere else close to the TV and sit down and play it with somebody else using the TV, I guess.
mm,
But it's not a full portable. It's not something you can. It's kind of the first iteration, almost prototype of the Switch,
mm,
and didn't really. I guess what I'm trying to say is that you had the Super Nintendo, which had doubled the graphics, from 8-bit to 16, and then you
ooh,
had N64, which had the 64-bit graphics and had the polygon-based, 3D rendering, which was a huge change. But even just the controllers, you had the control stick for the first time, which everybody has been using since.
yep.
Um, and those were huge leaps forward, and the Rumble Pack. Um,
Oh my
so
God, I forgot about that.
yeah, the Rumble Pack. But after that, the GameCube was I don't even know what that was supposed to be. I mean, in
Mm.
terms of innovation, you had these teeny tiny small discs, which Nintendo and their loading times, for goodness sake, guys. And then after that, what was it? The Wii? That was
Yeah,
huge and innovative beyond all belief. And then they came out with the Wii U, and you're like, what were you thinking? What happened here?
that's
You
a
had
little.
this like crazy. You had basically pulled in an entire set of markets that hadn't been there before. And now you have the Wii U, and it's not addressing any of those people. So I don't know what you're doing with this.
Mm-mm. No, that was ridiculous because I remember what thinking about GameCube. Yeah, what the hell? What did GameCube bring? Really nothing that I can think of. I mean, it
A
brought
bunch
good.
of ports, which weren't as good, and
Yeah,
the first party titles were marginal, I would say. Well, I don't know. Super Mario Sunshine was a good time.
that was a really good time.
Yeah.
But and then Harvest Moon was already on previous
Yes.
on GameCube or not GameCube, sorry, Game Boy, and other forms. And then I'm trying to think, really, Smash Brothers Brawl. No, Brawl was Wii. No, was it? I don't remember. This is the problem of
Yeah.
being to the age where I don't remember what dang Super Smash Brothers uh, Wii was. I'm pretty sure it's Brawl. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it is because what was
Well,
the
so the
Wii?
first, yeah, this first Smash Brothers was N64,
Mm,
which was huge. That was a huge game.
Melee. That's what it is.
Yeah, and then they did Melee on the GameCube, right? That was the
Right.
GameCube.
That
Yeah.
was
So
fun.
yeah, and that I mean that was an iteration. It felt like really.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, there really
anyway,
wasn't. But the best part, and the best part for the N64, and then we'll skip GameCube, was that you had mentioned it earlier, the Rumble packs. But the fact that they were doing expansion packs and extra things you can plug into your dang controller because that made the game better was freaking hilarious and the most Nintendo thing that you could have done.
well, and at the time, I think it made some sense. You know, internet was not as huge. I mean, I don't even think at the time. I'm trying to think. I don't think we had AOL at the time.
Oh man.
So yeah, I mean that says a little bit of something there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't. How do you don't update your games? There's no way to do that. So how do you improve them? You ship peripherals, I guess. So
You
I don't know.
shove it in the back of your controller.
I'm no expert. I
It,
did love me the Rumble Pack. The Rumble Pack was one of my favorite things, and I don't think a lot of people liked it, and I can understand why. But uh, the goal of my gaming experiences has always been to immerse myself. That's what I like about gaming, and
hmm.
that took it another step for me. Getting shot at in Star Fox and getting hammered on your controller was just so life changing in my opinion. So,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was the best part.
well, now that we've talked gaming for 37 minutes, is there another topic that you wanted to bring up besides our collective experiences of video games?
Are completely backwards, and definitely there's the huge gap between us. I shouldn't say huge, but there's definitely a gap between. But I don't know. Well, there's plenty of things. We could talk about. I don't want to bore you with books because, well, that always works out well. I yell at you for not reading. You say I know, and then we go back and forth, and then you're like, "Hey, I read a page or two," and I'm like, "Great, let's keep this going," and then you get stuck. So,
There's just too many things going on, and I read so many different articles and other things that I don't know. It's hard to get into it. But I will say it is because of you that I have read as many books in my life as I have. So I think I read last year and the year before more books in those 2 years combined than my entire life.
good.
So um, keep it up. I like it, and I like it as a hobby, and I enjoy it, and I always have. So I like you reminding me about it and yelling at me
Yeah, eventually you'll finish the second book of The Expanse next year. So we'll
someday.
get to that. But there's one thing I do want to talk about, and this has been something I think you and I and other people at work and other work people and people in general have been talking about are a lot of the movies that are coming out this year. And one of the biggest ones for me is not Infinity Wars like everybody else, but Ready Player One.
Oh, I
Uh,
can't wait.
that is, and that's where I think you and I sort of mesh our generation together because I have a huge love for a lot of the earlier games and earlier 80s memorabilia and that the tone, the the movies that came out of there, the music that came out of there. And Ready Player One is just this huge homage to the 80s and early 90s, anything from video games to movies to books to you name it. And reading it was the best because it was going through that sort of nostalgic run through games that people would always talk to me about, or books, or movies, or uh, anything like that from the early '80s onwards. And the fact that somebody wrote a book about a kid going through basically living his life through a virtual console, a virtual reality. That was the coolest thing. And I don't know about you, but I look forward to watching this movie and looking through all the references to the 80s and 90s, give or take, that appear on the screen. I'm sure I'll lose count.
Yeah, like you said, that book is pretty special to me. I actually had it recommended from a friend years and years and years ago, probably when it first came out. Actually, yes, it was when it first came out, and or when it was first published, I shouldn't say. When it was first published,
Mm-hmm.
a friend recommended it. He said you would really like it. You're a gamer. You would appreciate it. So Frank, thank you if you're listening. But having read it finally now, I definitely love that book. And it's interesting because you say you bring up our generation slight gap, I'll call it. And I'm giving you a hard time for being born in 92, but I was born in 83. So, it's not that big of a gap, really. I mean, it is a big gap, but it's not that big of a gap. And I feel as though a lot of the experiences that are described in that book and the games that are brought up in that book, again, are still a little bit before my time,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the time that I wouldn't have been old enough to go to the arcade and spend quarters.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even in the mid to late 80s, that's not something that I had access to in terms of, I was too young, just too young to do that kind of thing. So I, like you, I think, and that's why we're both kind of on the same level with that book, really have an appreciation for all those things that came
Mm-hmm.
before the games that I truly love, and I really enjoy those older games, and really I hold them up as like really the precursor to greater and better things, but really the classics, they're still fun to play. But you and I both appreciate those games and appreciate that time, and I think we come at it from we just played them or played them more recently than the time they came out, but still, there's something important there, and I think that book really touches on that. Now, with that said, there's a lot of music that I really do not like in the 80s and a lot in the 90s too. So, but I think it kept most of that out of there. So that book is just fantastic, really.
Yeah, and it did, as far as I remember. But was I remember reading it and then going, "Man, this would be a great movie." And then later on, finding out, I think very shortly after, it was a couple months maybe, that they actually had already started screening and going through that process. So that was really cool to see that. And we had talked about this too, but later on, there's the author wrote a second book, which was different but the same, different story but kind of the same homage to the 80s constantly. So but that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, just seeing Ready Player One. But the other one that snuck up on the both of us, I think, were really skeptical at first, was the Solo movie. And yeah, what do you think? What are you most excited about that movie?
I can't wait for that movie. It's funny. I when it was first announced, I kind of did the eye roll because I really didn't believe, even just hearing that it was about Han Solo. That's all you have to know at the beginning. I really truly did not believe that anybody could capture the essence of Han Solo without Harrison Ford, especially. But even that aside, Han Solo is such a key character and a legend in the Star Wars milieu, if you will. And you can just do it so many horrible, horrible ways, and I feel like there's maybe one or two good ways to do it, or successful ways, or interesting ways, and I also think that that opinion that I just said
Mm-hmm.
is going to be different for every person, or at least what would be the success of a Han Solo movie would be different in everybody's mind or opinion, and or a lot of fans would have a different view on it. But why I'm actually excited about it after seeing all the different trailers and everything that they've been teasing is that it's I don't want to get into Star Wars really, but something that's been missing, in my opinion, from some of the new movies, and I love them dearly, by the way, all of them, um, but is the pulpy adventure
Hmm.
side that I feel that the original movies really, not every second of the original movies, but really harkened back to that Buck Rogers slash, olden pulpy adventure style of storytelling, and the the trailers for Solo really ring true of that to me. They really just seem very pulpy and just fun. And whether or not it's a good movie, we'll see. But that excites me. It's a return to some of that.
Yeah, and uh, for me, I like the idea that we're having these Star Wars stories constantly preceding the major blockbuster episode episodal Star Wars. So that's very nice to see that. And for me, I'm just going to see it because being a diehard Star Wars fan, I'm going to see it regardless, and I'm going to like it regardless of what people say about even the one, two, three episodes. They're still interesting in a sense. They're
You
still
take
Star
that back.
Wars.
No, you take that back right now. Those movies don't exist.
They exist in some alternative universe, but yeah, it's just kind of nice to have some refresh of more Star Wars things because for a while we didn't really have that. We had the bad taste in our mouth from the episodes that may not be named, and getting used to that was kind of a shock. But yeah, I was really excited to see yet another possible hit. I'm hoping it's as good as Rogue One, but that's really hard for me because I loved Rogue One.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Let's qualify it a little bit. I don't really think that the episodes 1, 2, and 3 are a complete failure. There's no way. I mean, there's so much that came out of those episodes that
Hmm.
really has given a lot of color to the Star Wars universe and colored what the Jedi were and what they did and how and what the Force looked like then and blah blah blah. But basically, there's so many different stories in Star Wars that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for episodes 1, 2, and 3. And I mean, even just the Clone Wars alone, the TV show. I mean, that show is so good, so good, but wouldn't exist without episodes 1, 2, and 3 as they were. That doesn't make them good movies, but they're still fun to watch sometimes, and a lot of the scenes I really enjoy. But with that said, yes, it was a dry period of Star Wars for a long time, and as a diehard Star Wars fan myself, um, it is nice to have the amount of content that seems to be uh, really on the horizon for us.
Hmm.
Um, I I worry about the quality of that content with it every single year, but that's just I don't know, the little voice in the back of my head saying that's a lot of stuff at the same time. But
Yeah.
hey, I'm not running the show, and so far I've really enjoyed every single movie that's come out since, and for different reasons, but I have enjoyed them and been highly entertained by them. And I will take it. I am really enjoying seeing a Star Wars movie every year, and I hope they keep that up, and I hope it keeps that same quality um, going forward.
Yeah, and that's only something we can hope to be, as you said. So I'm really hoping that it stays like this, and I don't get disappointed in the episode. What, seven, eight, nine? I didn't count, and
I can't keep track.
we don't get stuck in another dry spell. But it might be time to cut it off. Very similar to how it should have. We should have cut off Harry Potter, but no worries. We'll keep making movies to please the people that are out there that still want to see Harry Potter. People just can't let it go. Anyways, uh,
Well, and the last thing I'll say about the Star Wars thing is I applaud them, and I think this is maybe why it will work or has worked because I think they recognize the Harry Potter problem, and the answer to that problem, in my opinion, is the Star Wars stories. That they are giving different directors a lot of leeway to make different stories inside of the Star Wars universe without having to stick to trilogies and specific characters. And I think that really keeps the universe fresh and the storytelling enjoyable and entertaining and different, and you're not going to see the same Star Wars movie every single time from the story side of it. Stories being the name of the actual Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
a Star Wars story or whatever.
Hmm.
The non-trilogy based movies, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I think that really keeps it fresh, and that's the Harry Potter problem. You've got the one story with the one set of characters, and then they get older, and you can't keep telling the same story, and people don't want to see the same story. So, yeah, I think that's a recipe for success.
It's funny during this time, I have somebody messaging me saying, "Hey, I think I broke my MacBook." I just shake my head because they're sending messages of screenshots of basically a black screen saying that they somehow messed up their boot drive. So,
Well,
and
tell them not to do that. That's how you fix it.
well, she's trying to essentially factory reset her MacBook Air so that she can just essentially have it from a fresh start, which I told her you didn't have to do because you should never have to do that anyways. But she's doing it anyways and fell into a problem. And it's very hard to do it over text to somebody who isn't patient. It's a good word for it. So, anyways, what other movies are out there? There's a bunch of stupid ones like Super Troopers 2. I doubt there's going to be a huge uproar about that. I remember seeing the first one.
Well, you're gonna stab me because I didn't even know that was a thing, and
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't seen
totally
the
okay.
first one, and nobody hate me, but I saw a couple scenes of the first one, so
It's okay.
yeah, I always told myself I'd watch it, but I haven't watched it yet. So
It's good, but it's not something that you should go out of your way to go see if it's on TV, if it's on like TNT or whatever FX, if it's randomly playing, you should try it out. But other than that, it's really nothing that you have to go see. But I saw that they were making a sequel to it, and that it was a preview that came up and went, interesting. Maybe I'll see it. I'll probably wait till it comes out on DVD. Or wow, sorry, that's an old saying. I will. I'll wait till it comes out digitally or whatever.
you'll wait
Whatever
till
the
you can tape it, with your
yes.
VCR. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah, good times.
And then lastly, there's The Incredibles 2. Now that
Oh man, I can't wait.
that
The Incredibles is my favorite, and let me qualify this. It's my favorite Pixar movie. Now, it's not the best Pixar movie by
hmm
far, but it's my favorite because I mean, I love the characters. I love the superhero aspect with the, you know, we live a normal life at home style storytelling, and I just loved every second of that movie. So,
yeah,
very excited about the second one.
it is very good, and I remember watching that with my family hundreds of times over and over and over and over again. So the fact that that's coming out and we're going to see it again, I think my parents and my siblings are thinking about seeing it as a family, kind of as good old times to see something like that. So that'd be kind of cool. Kind of miss that. Those movies. My first movie I ever saw was Toy Story in theaters.
Okay, we need to stop talking.
So
Are you kidding me right now? That was your first
that was
movie experience?
in the theaters. Yeah, Toy Story, the first one.
Well, firstly, how do you know that? And then secondly, I'm trying to think of mine. Actually think it was the Transformers movie. Transformers the movie, which was the animated movie,
Oh my.
where they killed Optimus Prime, and that's why I know because I was so upset like everybody else in the world that they killed Optimus Prime. Who kills Optimus Prime? Optimus he's the reason you watch Transformers for goodness sake.
Wow. I know because my parents told me when I went to see it. They're like, "Yes, this is your first movie. The Toy Story was your first movie in the theaters." Blah blah blah. So that's how I
Yeah, that
know.
makes sense.
But the fact that I don't even think I've seen that Transformers movie, and it's sad to think that when you said Transformers, I immediately thought, "Are you serious? Your first movie you ever saw was the first
Oh,
Transformers
oh
movie
God, Justin.
by Michael Bay?" God.
No, it was it was the animated movie of the hit TV show, which I loved as a child and still love to this day. And it is a terrible, terrible TV show, but was so good at the time. Um, and the movie was fantastic, dually fantastic and harrowing because they killed Optimus Prime. But the music is so 80s from that movie, so
God.
it's that was a fun movie, a lot of fun.
Is that the car one? Or is that the one they're all cars or automobiles or some sort of transportation?
Yes, like all Transformers movies and TV shows, they are cars.
No, that's not true, because there was the dinosaur one.
Oh God, Beast Wars? Are you kidding me? Yes, that was a show. Yes, it was. Yeah,
And that's
yeah, they did that for a while, and I enjoyed that show, but that is not Transformers. Oh God. All right, let's move on.
Oh man. All right. Well, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know. So you have, well, and actually, just in the movie discussion there, you have Ocean's 8. Is that a thing? What
Yeah.
thing is that?
So Ocean's 8 obviously is, and I say obviously is that sounds such a like a dickish thing to say, but Ocean's 8 is a spin-off of all the Ocean 11 and whatnot, and it's all women this time. So it's 8 women, I think, in this movie, and it's supposed to be centric to that kind of theme. And I didn't, to be honest, write a lot about this, but it looked interesting because the fact that it was all women based, it was uh, different, and it looks pretty freaking awesome. So I'm pulling up the cast list, but go ahead.
I mean, that alone, that description alone, sounds pretty interesting to me. So
Yeah.
I think that would shake it up and make it really, really interesting and enjoyable to watch. So I think it got stale there for a bit, and now it sounds like that could be fun. And I'm on board with that being an IP that they make movies out of more often. I think that especially the first one was just so much fun, and if it sticks to that kind of same tone going forward, it could be a fun set of movies going forward into the future. But yeah, it sounds like that would be fun to see.
Okay, so I might already start questioning what this is going to be about, but Anne Hathaway is in it, Sandra Bullock,
Sold.
Rihanna is in it for some reason. I'm trying to think of people. Mindy, I can never pronounce her last name. Kaling.
Hmm.
She's from other pretty like The Office and whatnot. Uh,
Oh yeah, I like her.
yeah. So and now she's in the Wrinkle in Time that's been bombarding my TV
Oh
shows with commercials.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
oh, well, of course, the biggest one is Infinity Wars. Um, I think,
Yeah, but we know that's going to be good,
yeah,
so we don't even have to talk about that.
the, the,
I mean, even the bad Marvel, uh, even the not Marvel, I should say, even the bad Avengers movies have been awesome and just fun to watch. So I don't think, I mean, obviously we're going to see that, and it's going to be good.
yeah,
So
I'm definitely seeing that. My wife loves Marvel, which is hilarious, but loves uh she loved Black Panther, which was very good, and she's a huge fan of Captain America. So when we were in the see Black Panther, they had a preview of Infinity Wars, I think. Maybe it was, yeah, it was. And just seeing all the characters like Doctor Strange, which to me is one of my favorites because it's cool and
really,
totally, yeah, it's different. He's completely different. It's just weird. I don't want to call him a warlock, but
yeah, no, you can. That's
I
okay.
guess a warlock, and he's definitely to me out of place in all of Marvel. He does not. I don't feel like he fits in Marvel universe at all, but he is in there, and I think his name kind of suits his placement in amongst the other characters in the universe. So I don't know. And I think the movie was pretty good because of Cumberbatch, but that's just me.
Oh, the movie was great. I thought. It's it's strange, no pun intended. It's strange, but the thing about that movie is, and this has been happening with a lot of the characters, and I am fully prepared. I haven't seen Panther, but I am fully prepared for this to happen with Black Panther as well. Is that these are characters that I did not care for, or
Yeah.
either didn't care for, or didn't think twice about. in actually reading real comics, and the fact that they're making these fantastic movies with these characters that weren't as popular at the time is just a testament to what they're doing. I mean, Doctor Strange, the comics, I had not even I knew it was out there, but I none of my friends talked about it. Nobody I knew liked them. But the movie was great, and I thought it was a great character to watch,
Hmm.
and all the different things he did. You're right; it was very, very different from the superpowers and the strong men and all the beatdowns and the. It was very, very different, and I liked that about it too. It was very magic based,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was fun. So
Yeah, and you hit that right in the head. Basically, it's different. It's magic, and he's not this brute, muscular, super strong superhero that wants to be the hero in the story. I mean, to me, that's what I liked about it. So,
yeah, yeah, I could agree with that. But I mean, they did for me. They did the same thing with Captain America. Like for all intents and purposes, I avoided Captain America
wow.
comics with undying passion. Like
Mm,
I just thought he was so bland and not interesting, and I now realize the error of my ways that a lot of those books were some of the best, but I thought at the time that they weren't because I just found the character so not compelling in any way. But the movie, the movies,
mm,
I love Captain America
so
because of
good.
those movies. They are so great. And again, I mean, this is, and we can talk about this another time, but a lot of the older Marvel movies, or as they become older Marvel movies, just don't hold up
God no.
um, in terms of effects and stuff these days. But
Mm-mm.
they're still fun to watch in some ways. And man, that set of Captain America movies really just nailed it for me. So
Yeah.
those are great.
Even if you look back at the first one to the most recent one, the effects from the first Captain America to Civil War, that it's completely different in the sense where there's so much more development in CGI and the effects that they're having with fighting and the people's special moves and whatnot. It's just crazy. And we just watched the three movies, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, because we had saw the preview, I think, of Infinity Wars, and we're like, we should watch Captain America again. And I still think they're my favorite out of like, the Thor series, out of pretty much Iron Man. I'm not a huge fan of any of the Iron Mans, to be honest. I don't like him. I don't like uh, watching watching those movies at all. I really enjoyed Captain America over everything so far, and then now Black Panther was really good, and no one wants to go back to Toby uh, Maguire and watching the old Spider-Mans. Those are terrible.
I can't believe you don't like Iron Man.
No, I
That's so crazy to me.
it's not that I don't like Iron Man the concept. I
No, no,
don't.
I get it. And
I,
those movies, I mean.
yeah, yeah. I don't like the movies. They're okay to me. They maybe it's just the actor. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they had a certain tone, I suppose, but that was to me that signaled the start of serious, well, not really, but modern serious comic book hero movies was the first Iron Man. That really changed the game in my opinion. So, I don't know, I really enjoyed those and I like that character and I like that actor. So, maybe it is just the actor. But I agree with you. Captain America was something else at the time. It was just something special. And yeah, I think since I, I don't think I don't think I would like the Avengers movies as much if he wasn't in it. I really really like him, so I hope he stays in it. I hope the new movie doesn't kill him off.
Yeah, I really hope.
So yeah, and the funny thing about it is also you mentioned the effects and how they've been progressively changing
Oh
and
yeah.
getting better and better and faster and more timed and just the timing of them is fantastic. You talk about a movie like Suicide Squad, and
Oh.
story aside, let's just we okay, yeah, just story aside. You watch the effects of that movie, and it's not like they're bad effects. It's just that they're not. in step with modern movie making effects for that genre, I would say. Like, really, the Marvel movies have been pushing that envelope and really making those effects. I'll call them faster. Like, the fighting is just so fast and furious, and not camera shake fast and furious, which I cannot stand when they shake the camera and try to make it look like chaos. But
Oh yeah.
like, you can see everything happening, and it is so fast and fun to watch, and they actually look like they're flying, and they actually look like, it's real. And you go and watch Suicide Squad, and they just film some people doing choreographed fight scenes, and you're like, no, you need more than that now. You can't
Yeah.
just you can't just throw punches at each other.
Yeah.
So
Even at the very end of that movie, I think that was the only really big CGI, if anything, when the witch was becoming or not the witch, sorry, holy cow. When the Anubis big, whatever giant thing that came to life and was attacking everybody, that was, I think, the only time that there was any sort of CGI effect at all. The
yeah,
rest of it was just punching each other.
yeah. Well, and you take that too. I mean, you're right. That was, and that was horrendous. I mean, it was just brutal to watch that. I The timing was all wrong. They got thrown on wires across I can't even. Yeah, it was just bad. So it's fun to watch movies where they're doing it right these days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What other things? That's the ones I specifically looked at, but knowing me, that there are probably plenty of good movies coming out that I haven't even considered or have already come out that I haven't even considered talking
Well,
about.
I am way out of the game on all that stuff. I don't even see commercials these days, so I mean, I never know when things are coming out. But there is one that has managed to come to the surface even in my cord cutting lifestyle,
Hmm.
and that is what is it, Red Sparrow with
Uh,
Jennifer Lawrence.
yes.
I cannot wait for that movie. It looks awesome. So,
Really?
uh, yeah, yeah, I think that looks like a lot of fun. So, and I like her. I really like her as an actress. So
I was about to
I'm gonna.
say. I'm starting to feel that you and I have a lot of differences that are starting to come out. Because
Well, all right.
I certainly do not like her.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. I feel like she plays the same person over and over again, and that's mainly not always her fault. It's she plays a lot of people in several movies, and you just kind of see her over and over again, and it's it's hard to each movie develop a different character with a different mannerisms and whatnot. But when I saw the previews to this, this movie really is coming up shortly, a few 6, maybe 7 months after Atomic Blonde came out. So I still feel, and not that it's the same genre, or sorry, the same storyline where somebody goes to Russia, becomes an assassin, and finds somebody else and falls in love. But the whole Atomic Blonde, badass woman beating up people movie was just done, and I feel like it just kind of gets old. That's why I don't like it, and I haven't even seen
Um,
it.
I could see that. I could see that. Jennifer Lawrence, in my opinion, I think she's a fantastic actress. I think the movies that have been successful, she is the same character.
Hmm.
Um, because she's been in a lot of not as successful movies and played a different character, and I think that she did really well in those not so successful movies as well. But you're right. I mean, the ones that do well, you're talking, what was it, X-Men? The X-Men,
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that.
yeah, she was Mystique,
Hmm.
which was fantastic. The Hunger Games, which is probably her best known titles, of course.
Ugh,
Um,
not my
I
favorite.
loved I loved her in American Hustle. We watched Joy. That was a marginal movie, but she was a great actress in it.
Hmm.
And I, I'm gonna alienate more audience here, but I really enjoyed Silver Linings Playbook. So, I thought she was great in that one.
That was
So,
actually a very good one. I'll give you that.
yeah,
I,
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think she's pretty dynamic. I just don't think that the movies she's dynamic in are the ones that are making the money. So she gets typecast.
yeah, and I'm sure the movie will do well, and I'm sure a lot of people will go see it. and so forth. But it's just not something that I was looking when I saw it come up. I went, I can pass. It's kind of like what Jurassic Park did, or Jurassic World. Is that what we're calling the new one?
I don't know. I haven't. I don't.
Right,
I'm good.
exactly.
I'm full up on dinosaurs. So
Yeah, that's over. It's over. What other? I don't even know what other ones are coming out. I'm
yeah, I
actually.
think that's.
Oh, Pacific Rim. Oh my God, I totally
How
forgot.
did we forget that movie?
And Tomb Raider.
Oh well, Tomb Raider. I mean, I'm gonna see it and I'm gonna like it, I'm sure, but it's not gonna be a good movie.
No, it's not.
Um, I mean, the new games are so phenomenal, and especially compared to the old ones. But there's no way the movie is gonna be great. It might be fun and interesting in some ways, but it's not gonna be great.
No.
But oh my gosh, Pacific Rim! Holy cow! I
Yes.
cannot wait for that movie.
Yeah.
Giant robots fighting other giant things. Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Sign me up. It
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be a good movie. Sign me up.
The first one was not even the acting was just so forced.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so
It was.
bad, but it was so good.
Well, I would venture to say some of the actors really brought their A game, and I thought some of the acting was decent and fun. But
God.
yeah, no, some of it was really really dry.
I,
But man, that movie is great. I mean, it's not I would say critically it's not a fantastic movie, but I love that
oh
movie. It is
yeah.
great.
Yeah, the graphics and the just I say graphics, but the effects in that thing were amazing. Just it was just so cool. It's like a little taste of Gundam, but not Gundam, and being able to the whole thing between how one person can control the left hemisphere and right hemisphere. That was the coolest thing ever, and it just it's cool. It brings this kind of Godzilla like as aspect of uh, these big robots attacking these aliens that are coming from a different dimension, and the humans are struggling to fight and fight with each other. It's just great. It's going to be good, and I don't care if it's terrible acting again. I'm still going to see it.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, and it's funny. I am in a previous life, I was huge into anime and loved the giant robot anime was my favorite, of
Oh
course.
yeah.
But um, it's funny on paper. I just if somebody slid this on paper in front of me, I would say no. I'm not going to watch that movie. I mean, a movie where two people have to be in a giant robot to move it, and the aliens are coming from under the sea randomly, and it just it, on paper, I was like, no, I'm okay. Yeah, that's not. But you go and see it, and oh my gosh, that movie was fantastic, and actually delivered on everything in terms of giant robots and fights and good times.
Yeah,
So
and even there was one line in it that I will never forget is when the EMP goes off and the rest of the robots, or we'll call them, I don't remember what they call them, gaijins.
I forget actually.
Anyways, and with the one that has the nuclear powered robot said, "Don't worry, it's analog." I lost it. Like I just couldn't.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
I just couldn't. Like, did he just say that? Did he really just say it's analog? Ah, I guess we'll never win that one. But yeah, I was looking at the list of movies, and really that's the really big. There's the Hurricane heist that is basically like a spin-off of the Fast and Furious that looks absolutely ridiculous. But no, there isn't really a lot going on.
I just want to be clear. The other Fast and Furious movies weren't ridiculous.
Oh, they are, but they're awesome.
Okay. Oh, really?
But
Okay.
this is literally one
I'll
about
take your word for it.
this is coming from someone who has binge watched them several times over with my wife. So we've seen them several times, constantly see them, and then constantly we'll watch the same one over and over again. So
Wow. Wow. That's saying something. I'll have to watch them.
I think it's just because we like the acting and I like cars, so I get to look at
People
those.
people act in those movies. I didn't realize.
Now that was very mean.
It was. It was. I have watched. I think I saw the first two, and then I started watching the ones afterward and seeing this is. I'm terrible at this. I'm so sorry, but Fast and Furious 3 and 4. I don't even know what they were called. Furious and Faster and something something. I actually highly enjoyed them because of what they are. I mean, they're just fast-paced car chase movies, really, and which is great. I mean, they really are good at that and a lot of fun. So I just never got to go see them. So I'm just I'm just sour about it. So I'm gonna take it out on you.
It's fine. And my favorite one out of all of them is the least uh, critically acclaimed one, anyways, and that's the Tokyo Drift. Everyone gives that one the oddball, the look of why are you even recommending this to anybody, being the oddball out of all of the Fast and Furiouses because just the mentality of it, the theme is completely different from the rest of them. I mean, it has the big hacho man goes to a different place, creates friends, races, beats the lead racer. Everybody's happy, but it just was different because none of the main characters were in it. They're in a completely different area. They're drifting, which was a huge difference from the racing that was going on. So I just liked it.
I could see that. That's one of the. Is that three or four? I'm so
Technically,
terrible.
that'd
But
be three.
okay, yeah. So I watched that one. And I enjoyed it. It was entertaining for sure.
And who doesn't like a
So
hillbilly trying to fit in the middle of Japan? So
yeah, yeah, that was pretty intense and fun. So yeah.
cool. Do you want to end it here because it's an hour and 16 minutes into it, and I'm getting a little tired.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't think we would have anything to talk about, and I don't think we even touched on the topics that were probably the most interesting. So,
Yeah, like tech,
um,
like iPad Pro refresh, future of SpaceX. I mean, there's so many things that we could have talked about, but I think we can definitely save those for a more structured session next time.
all right, yeah.
So how do we
Well,
do this? Do we say goodbye, uh, non-existent listeners? But
no, I don't think that's how we do it. No,
no.
I really don't. I think that we just probably end it and
Okay.
just, that's the end of it.